On Monday, the 31st of October 2022, Indiana State Police announced Richard Matthew Allen had been charged on 2 counts of murder. Many are now speculating that more people may be involved, but I think it's standard procedure to want more tips and keep the investigation open if they want more information about Richard Allen. It's also a possibility he's committed another murder or other violent crimes in the past, given the statistics taking in consideration his age at the time in February 2017. It's also been mentioned it's unusual for the court documents to be sealed for transparency reasons, which has fueled speculation others may be involved in the crime. Doug Carter gave a heartwarming speech to the families and made clear in the Monday press conference the investigation is still open and today is not the day.
There to be any confusion or ambiguity with what I will say. Today is not a day to celebrate, but the arrest of Richard M. Allen of Delphi on 2 counts of murder is sure a major step in leading to the conclusion of this long-term and complex investigation. First, I'd like to speak directly to Anna, Mike, Becky, Kelsey, your extended families, along with the entire Delphi community that certainly has grown and now includes our nation and even many countries around the world. I am proud to report to you that today, actually last Friday, was the day, and an arrest has been made. Thanks to literally hundreds of media outlets that have been steadfast in reporting and keeping the memories of Abby and Libby front and center. Many of you in the room have developed relationships with me personally, and I always have a personal perspective, and today's no different. But from a very personal perspective, you all have provided inspiration and support, even while oftentimes frustrated with us and me. You continue to encourage the efforts, and you too believe that one day we would all be here participating and sharing this news. To the entire law enforcement community, which includes all local, state, and federal agencies, which are far too many to specifically mention today, thank you, thank you, thank you. We are going to continue a very methodical and committed approach to ensure that if any other person had any involvement in these murders in any way, that person or persons will be held accountable. Since the murders of Abby and Libby, 2,086 days ago, the daily investigative team has worked tirelessly and is certainly worthy of mention today. Specifically, Sheriff Linsonby, the Sheriff of Carroll County, Detectives Tony Liggett, Detective retired Kevin Hammond, former Delphi Chief and now the prosecutor's investigator Steve Mullins, State Police First Sergeant Jerry Holman, Detectives Jay Harper, Dave Vito, and Brian Harshman, along with members of the United States Marshal Service, specifically Agent Jeremy Clinton and Agent Bill Colfers. With them today is Dan McClain, the U.S. Marshal, appointed U.S. Marshal. Our state police analyst, our scientist from many different disciplines within our laboratory division, Mrs. Kathy Shank, for your incredible dedication to detail, and to so many others that I know I've missed. I really believe that Abby and Libby would be proud of you for standing strong, even in the face of immense pressure and perpetual criticism. Some of these individuals have postponed retirement, passed on promotional opportunity, have dedicated personal time away from their families, given up nights, weekends, and holidays, all while in the pursuit of accountability for Abby and Libby. I know that today's announcement will not diminish your resolve, and I hope you have found just a bit of peace in this most complicated world. This is really important. While I know you are all expecting final details today concerning this arrest, today is not that day. Today is not that day. This investigation is far from complete, and we will not jeopardize its integrity by releasing or discussing documents or information before the appropriate time. Prosecutor Nick McClelland, of course, will share additional information about what we can and cannot say, and also explain to you why the probable cause affidavit is temporarily sealed by the court and not available. And by the way, he has been a tremendous asset to this team. I'm yet again asking you for your patience and please your understanding while our system of due process works. Also remember that all persons arrested are presumed innocent. All persons arrested are presumed innocent. You all will have an innate desire to subjectively interpret and then report what you think. We in the law enforcement realm cannot, and you should never allow us to, talk about what we think concerning facts, but rather discuss and share at the right time what it is we know. The time will come when additional details can be released. But again, today is not that day. It's about Abby and Libby, their families, and this community, this nation, and even our planet. The prosecutor has been very clear with law enforcement about what his expectations are, about what can and cannot be released, shared, or discussed. So we will, of course, comply. If you choose to be critical of our silence, be critical of me, not the front line. These are the folks that have committed their entire lives to a successful conclusion. In other words, a guilty verdict. As we move to the next phase of this investigation, I will continue to offer all resources that the ISP has to not only the investigative team I anticipate growing, but also to Prosecutor McClelland as we prepare for the coming months. Again, Nick has been very resolute and very clear, and I'm most grateful for his leadership. And it's going to be really important as we move forward. Please continue offering tips that you would like to share. The many avenues to report will remain open and will be available to all. Please continue doing that. In closing, I stand before you in this church and very place where we held our first briefing nearly 6 years ago, and just hours after the murders of Abby and Libby. Right here. Pulling in today, I wasn't really sure what emotion I would experience. But peace came over me. And I didn't expect that to happen. And I hope all of you, with all the different responsibilities you have from around the planet today, have felt some of that as well. But remember, we're not done. I think what we all have experienced proves that together there's nothing we cannot do. But more importantly, giving of ourselves, all of us, giving of ourselves matters more than what we could ever receive. Abby and Libby, though in death, have had a profound effect on so many of us, on how we live, and as importantly, who we all should be.
Carroll County Prosecuting Attorney Nicholas McClelland mentioned the tip line will be open and alluded to the case to being open to the possibility that others are involved when a question was asked to him.
Excuse me?
Do you assume there's any other individuals involved in this case?
We haven't closed the door on the investigation, and so that's why we keep the tip line and the tip email open. And so we're not presuming anything at this point, but we're going to continue to take tips, continue to take any information anybody has, and as we've done with all the information we've gathered, we're going to look at that and examine that and see where it leads us.
Mr. Prosecutor, can you explain the law? You've asked the court, based on this investigation, that these documents should remain out of the public view. Can you explain, without getting into the details of what's in the documents, but this is not regular. Usually a public hearing is held. We should be able to see all the documents, right?
Sure,
But
sure.
you made a decision. Can you explain your decision as to why you believe that maybe for the next 30 days, no one in this room should have access to those records?
Sure, it is unusual. We don't do it very often in all the cases that we handle here in Carroll County. We did it in this case because the investigation is still open. And while all cases are important, the nature of this case has some extra scrutiny with it. And so my office, felt it important to seal those records. There will be a public hearing on whether or not those records are going to remain sealed or not. There'll be public notice for that hearing so that everyone can attend, but there will be a hearing to determine whether or not they're going to stay sealed. But for now, to me, it's about protecting the integrity of this case. I want to have an opportunity at some point to have an opportunity in court to explain the evidence and for that not to be tarnished or tainted or anything like that. Again, he's presumed innocent, and so it was important for me in this case to do that. Hold on just a minute. We're not going to comment on that right now as part of the investigation. Again, we just encourage everybody to continue to call in tips if they have them about anybody, and we'll examine those tips.
How does it feel for you guys to have searched nationwide for nearly 6 years, going all over the place, only to find your guy, down the street from your office?
That's a hard question to answer. It's a mixed emotions. I've been watching the news all weekend like everybody else has, and I think a lot of the members of the public said it right. It's bittersweet. It's a step in the right direction. It's concerning that he's a local guy. So I think just different emotions. Again, this is a step in the right direction. This is the first step into getting into court and having a trial. And so.
Richard Matthew Allen's non-descriptive information on his current charges are now available to view online. A hearing will take place on November 22 over Richard Allen's record if it will be unsealed or not. It is standard procedure to have a hearing in Indiana over sealed records. Richard Allen's next scheduled pre-trial hearing is on January 13, 2023, and the jury trial is scheduled for March 20, 2023. It's also been mentioned Richard Matthew Allen's alias might somehow connect him to the Kleins, but the alias was simply an error according to the alias's daughter when both Richard and her father were discharged at the same time. Richard Allen had no prior criminal record before his arrest in connection to the murders of Liberty German and Abigail Williams. Richard Matthew Allen also came forward as a witness early on in the investigation. Carroll County Police also went to Richard Allen's home over a domestic incident in 2015. It is currently unknown if the 5-week Peru-Indiana Wabash River search from August 19, 2022 coinciding with Keegan Klein's short transfer to Indiana State Police custody is connected to the search of Richard Allen's home. There's also currently no evidence the Kleins were communicating or knew Richard Allen in real life or on the internet. It's not been made public as of yet outside of rumors online as to what triggered Indiana State Police to search Allen's property and subsequently arrest him. HLN's Barbara McDonald recently mentioned the items which were taken from his home, and perhaps the evidence was damning enough on conjunction with DNA to charge him with double murder.